Welcome to our deep dive today. We're going to help you prep for your Aquaculture Recirculation Technician interview. Think of this as your cheat sheet, straight from the experts at RoleCatcher. To help you land that job, we've got career guides, sample questions, and even AI tools to give you that extra edge.
It's a fascinating field, really, more and more. We're seeing a shift from traditional fish farming towards these high-tech land-based systems.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. What exactly does an Aquaculture Recirculation Technician do? It sounds a lot more complex than just feeding fish.
You're absolutely right. It's about managing an entire ecosystem within a controlled environment. These recirculating systems are incredibly intricate, involving pumps, filters, and even backup power to ensure that the fish will thrive. You're not just feeding them, you're monitoring water quality, adjusting parameters, and even troubleshooting technical issues. It's a very hands-on and technical role.
So if I walk into that interview, what's the number one thing I need to convey to really impress the hiring manager?
It's all about showcasing your understanding of these recirculating systems. You need to demonstrate that you can not only operate them, but also troubleshoot problems and maintain a healthy environment for the fish.
That makes sense. So let's dive into some of those tricky interview questions. I'm looking at RoleCatcher's database here, and one that pops up a lot is, describe a time you had to troubleshoot a problem with a recirculation system. How do I even begin to answer something like that?
And think of it like a story. You want to paint a picture for the interviewer, taking them through the situation step by step. Start by setting the scene. What was the specific problem? What were the symptoms you observed?
So for example, I could say, I noticed a sudden drop in water temperature in one of the tanks.
Yeah.
What's next?
Then walk them through your thought process. How did you approach the problem? Did you check the heater, the thermostat? What steps did you take to diagnose the issue?
I definitely want to mention my knowledge of the specific system. I could say something like, I checked the digital temperature controller first, then I inspected the heating element for any signs of damage.
Exactly. Show them you know what you're talking about. And don't forget to mention how you documented everything. Detailed record keeping is crucial in aquaculture.
Right. Now, what if I get stuck? What if I blank on the specifics of a certain system?
That's where RoleCatcher's AI comes in handy. It can help you tailor your answer to the specific company and job description. Let's say the company specializes in raising salmon. RoleCatcher's AI can pull up information on the typical recirculation systems used for salmon farming, the common challenges encountered, and even suggest ways to highlight your experience in a way that resonates with that specific employer.
That's incredible. It's like having a personal research assistant prepping me for each interview. Okay, let's move on to another question I see here. How do you ensure the biofilter is functioning correctly? To be honest, I'm not even sure what a biofilter is.
That's a great question, and it's something you definitely want to understand before your interview. A biofilter is basically the heart of a recirculation system. It's responsible for removing harmful waste products, like ammonia, from the water.
So how do I explain that in a way that shows I know my stuff?
You want to highlight your understanding of water chemistry and the nitrogen cycle. Mention the specific parameters you'd monitor: ammonia, nitrate levels, and the testing methods you're familiar with. You could even mention specific equipment you've used, like a colorimeter or a titration kit.
That makes sense. It's not just about saying I'd monitor the biofilter. It's about demonstrating a deeper understanding of how it works and why it's so crucial.
Exactly. And remember, you can use RoleCatcher's AI to brush up on these concepts beforehand. It even provides practice questions and feedback to help you articulate your knowledge effectively.
Okay, let's tackle another common one. Describe a time you had to deal with a fish disease outbreak. That sounds intense. What do I need to know?
This question is all about showcasing your knowledge of fish health and biosecurity protocols. Start by mentioning how you'd identify the signs of disease early on: changes in behavior, skin lesions, or abnormal swimming patterns. Then outline the steps you'd take: isolating the affected fish, consulting with a veterinarian or fish health specialist, and implementing appropriate treatment protocols.
I'm guessing this is where those biosecurity protocols come in.
Absolutely. Highlight your knowledge of quarantine procedures, disinfection practices, and the importance of preventing the spread of disease. If you have experience with specific disinfectants or treatment methods, be sure to mention those. Again, RoleCatcher can help you tailor your answer to the specific types of fish diseases the company might encounter.
All right, this is starting to feel a lot more manageable. It's all about preparation and knowing where to find the right information.
You've got it. Now let's shift gears for a moment and talk about a question that focuses on your personal qualities. Why are you passionate about aquaculture?
This one seems a bit easier.
Right.
I just talk about my love for fish in the ocean.
It can be that simple. But you can also take it a step further. Think about what specifically draws you to this field. Is it the challenge of working with living organisms, the contribution to sustainable food production, the technological advancements in recirculating systems?
For me, it's definitely the science behind it all. The biology of aquatic organisms, the water chemistry, the whole ecosystem. It's fascinating.
That's great. Let that enthusiasm shine through in your answer. You can even mention any personal experiences that sparked your interest. Maybe a childhood memory of fishing or fascination with marine life.
I love that idea. It adds a personal touch and helps me connect with the interviewer on a more human level.
Exactly. Remember, they're not just looking for someone with technical skills. They want someone who's genuinely passionate about the work and will be a valuable addition to their team.
All right, let's keep rolling with these questions. What's next?
Let's talk about how do you stay updated on the latest advancements in aquaculture technology? This is your chance to show that you're a lifelong learner, always eager to expand your knowledge.
Okay, so I should mention things like industry publications, conferences, and online resources, right?
Absolutely. Highlight specific publications you subscribe to, websites you follow, or even social media groups you engage with. If you've attended any relevant workshops or webinars, be sure to mention those as well.
And I can also talk about my membership in professional organizations like the World Aquaculture Society or the Aquaculture Association of Canada.
Excellent point. That demonstrates your commitment to professional development and staying connected with the broader aquaculture community.
Now I'm starting to see a pattern here. For each question, there's some key points I need to hit, but I can also tailor my answers to the specific company and job description.
You're absolutely right. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you every step of the way, from providing background information to suggesting ways to tailor your answers and even practicing your delivery. It's like having a personal interview coach right in your pocket.
Okay, I'm feeling a lot more confident already. Let's keep this momentum going and tackle a few more questions. What else do you have for me?
Let's talk about a question that often comes towards the end of an interview. Do you have any questions for us? This is your chance to show that you're engaged and curious, and to gather valuable information about the company and the position.
Okay, so what are some good questions to ask? I don't want to just ask something generic. Or even worse, say, I don't have any questions.
You're right, those are missed opportunities. Instead, ask about things you genuinely want to know. You could ask about the company's culture, their commitment to sustainability, or their plans for future growth.
I'd also be interested in learning more about the specific team I'd be working with, the types of projects they're involved in, and the opportunities for professional development within the company.
Those are great questions. And don't be afraid to ask about the day-to-day responsibilities of the role. It shows that you're genuinely interested in the work and want to get a realistic picture of what the job entails.
This is all making so much sense. I'm starting to see the interview not just as a test, but as a conversation, a chance to learn more about the company and show them what I bring to the table.
That's the perfect mindset to have. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can even help you brainstorm some insightful questions based on the company and the job description.
Wow, it's like having a personal assistant prepping me for every aspect of the interview. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground here in part one. Where do we go from here?
You're right, we've covered a lot of ground. Let's keep diving deeper into these interview questions. There are always those curveballs that interviewers like to throw, so let's practice a few more. Are you ready for another round?
Absolutely. Bring it on. The more we practice, the more confident I'll feel walking into that interview room.
That's the spirit. Okay, let's say the interviewer leans back and asks, tell me about a time you had to make a difficult decision regarding the well-being of the fish. This one can be tricky, because it involves balancing those ethical considerations with production goals, which can be a sensitive topic.
Okay, I can see how that could be tough. I'd want to make sure I come across as someone who cares about the fish, but also understands the business side of things. How do I approach that?
You hit the nail on the head. Start by acknowledging that the welfare of the fish is your top priority. Then think about a situation where you had to make a tough call. Maybe you discovered a disease in a tank and had to decide whether to isolate the affected fish or cull them to protect the rest of the population.
That's a good example. I could explain how I weighed the options, maybe even consulted with a veterinarian or a more experienced technician, and ultimately made the decision that I believe was in the best interest of the overall fish population.
Exactly. That shows you take the well-being of the fish seriously, but also understand the importance of making tough decisions to prevent larger problems down the line. You could even tie in your knowledge of biosecurity protocols explaining how you implemented measures to minimize the risk of future outbreaks.
That's a great point. It shows I'm thinking ahead and taking proactive steps to protect the fish. Now, what about those really technical questions like explain the importance of maintaining proper water quality parameters in a recirculation system? I know this is important, but how do I explain it in a way that really impresses the interviewer?
That's a great question, and it's a perfect opportunity to show off your technical knowledge. Remember how we talked about the biofilter being like the heart of the system? Well, think of water quality parameters as the vital signs, things like temperature, pH, dissolved oxygen, and ammonia levels. Each one plays a crucial role in the health and growth of the fish.
So I could talk about how even slight deviations from the ideal range can stress the fish, suppress their immune systems, and make them more susceptible to disease.
Exactly. You can even go a step further and explain the specific technologies used to maintain those parameters. The biofilters, aeration systems, UV sterilization, and water treatment methods.
And this is where I can mention my experience with specific equipment.
Right.
Like if I've worked with different types of milters or water testing equipment, I can weave that into my answer.
Absolutely. The more specific you can be, the better. It shows you have practical knowledge and aren't just reciting textbook information.
And if I'm drawing a blank on the specifics, I can always use RoleCatcher's AI to refresh my memory. It's like having a cheat sheet for all things aquaculture right at my fingertips. Okay, hit me with another challenging question. I'm feeling brave.
All right, let's see. How about this one? Describe a time you had to deal with a power outage at the facility. Now, this is a real test of your problem-solving skills and quick thinking. Recirculation systems are completely reliant on electricity, so a power outage can be a major crisis.
Okay. I can see how that would be stressful. The fish are completely dependent on those systems. Where do I even begin?
First, highlight the importance of having a backup power source, like a generator, and ensuring it's properly maintained and tested regularly. Then walk through the steps you'd take during an outage. Would you switch to the backup power immediately? What systems would you prioritize? Would you need to manually aerate the tanks?
And I want to emphasize the importance of communicating with my team, making sure everyone is aware of the situation and knows what their role is in responding to the emergency.
Excellent point. Teamwork is crucial in these situations. Now, have you ever experienced a power outage at a facility before?
Actually, yes. I remember one.
Perfect. This is where you can draw on your own experience and walk the interviewer through the specific steps you took, how you handled the pressure, and what the outcome was.
I'm starting to see how my past experiences, even the challenging ones, can actually be strengths in an interview. It's all about showcasing how I've learned and grown from those situations.
You've got it. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about a question that focuses on your ability to work independently. Describe a time you had to work on a project with minimal supervision. This is a common one, as it assesses your initiative, self-motivation, and problem-solving skills.
Okay, I can think of a few examples from my previous jobs. I once had to implement a new feeding regimen for a particular group of fish. I had to research the best type of feed, develop a schedule, and monitor the fish's growth and health, all with very little oversight from my supervisor.
That's a great example. You could walk the interviewer through the steps you took, highlighting your ability to take ownership of the project, manage your time effectively, and make adjustments as needed based on your observations.
And I can also mention any challenges I encountered along the way and how I overcame them. Like what if there was a shortage of the specific feed I needed? I could explain how I researched alternatives, consulted with suppliers, or even adjusted the feeding schedule to accommodate the shortage.
Exactly. It's not about pretending you never face challenges, but rather showcasing how you approach them proactively and find solutions, even when working independently. And remember, you can always use RoleCatcher's AI to help you structure your answer using the SVAR method. Situation, task, action, result. It's a great framework for making sure you're hitting all the key points and telling a compelling story.
Okay, I'm adding the STAR method to my mental toolkit. This is so helpful. Now, what about those questions that focus on ethical considerations? I know animal welfare is a big topic in aquaculture.
You're absolutely right. You might encounter a question like, how do you ensure the ethical treatment of the fish under your care? This is where you can demonstrate your understanding of the fish's needs and the importance of responsible practices.
So I could talk about things like monitoring water quality, providing appropriate nutrition, and minimizing stress during handling and transport.
Exactly. You could mention specific techniques you've used to reduce stress, like using calming agents in the water, or minimizing the time fish spend out of their tanks. You could even talk about your knowledge of pain management strategies, used during procedures like tagging or vaccinations.
And I can also highlight any training or certifications I have related to fish welfare and handling.
Excellent point. That shows you're committed to staying updated on best practices and continuously improving your skills. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can help you identify relevant training programs or certifications that might boost your credentials and make you even more attractive to potential employers.
RoleCatcher really does have my back.
Uh,
Okay, what's next on our interview question marathon?
let's talk teamwork. Aquaculture often involves close collaboration with different departments and personnel. You might get a question like, describe a time you had to work effectively as part of a team to achieve a specific goal.
Teamwork is definitely something I excel at. I can think of several projects where I had to collaborate with others to get the job done, like maybe preparing a large shipment of fish for transport. That involves coordinating with everyone, from the hatchery team to the packing crew to the transportation company.
That's a perfect example. Walk the interviewer through the specific tasks involved, how you communicated with your team members, delegated responsibilities, and resolved any challenges that arose.
And I could mention how I used my specific skills and knowledge to contribute to the team's success. Like maybe I noticed a potential problem with the water temperature in the transport tanks, and used my knowledge of water quality to make adjustments before the fish were loaded.
Exactly. It's all about showcasing your ability to work collaboratively and leverage your expertise to benefit the entire team. Now, are you ready for a question that requires a bit of self-reflection?
Bring it on. I'm all about self-improvement.
All right, then, how would you answer this? Tell me about a time you received constructive criticism from a supervisor or coworker. This one can be a bit uncomfortable, but it's an opportunity to show that you're open to feedback and willing to learn from your mistakes.
I definitely understand the importance of feedback, even if it's not always positive. I remember one time when I definitely understand the importance of feedback, even if it's not always positive. I remember one time when my supervisor pointed out that my notes on water quality testing weren't detailed enough. They said it was important to record the exact time of the test, the specific equipment used, and even the weather conditions that day.
That's a great example. It's not about the criticism itself, but how you responded to it. Did you get defensive, or did you see it as an opportunity to improve?
Oh, I definitely saw it as a learning experience. I realized that my supervisor was right. Accurate record keeping is essential in aquaculture, and I needed to be more diligent. I immediately started taking more detailed notes and even created a checklist to make sure I didn't miss any important information.
Perfect. That shows you're open to feedback and willing to make changes to improve your performance. You can even mention that your supervisor noticed the improvement and commended you for it.
That's a great point. It highlights that I took the feedback seriously and implemented it effectively.
Okay. I'm feeling a lot more confident about handling those tricky behavioral questions. Now, what about those salary expectations? That's always a bit awkward to navigate.
You're right. It can be a delicate topic, but it's important to be prepared. Remember, RoleCatcher's Career Guide provides salary data for aquaculture recirculation technicians. It takes into account factors like experience, location, and the specific demands of the role.
So I should definitely do my research beforehand and have a salary range in mind that's both realistic and reflects my worth.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask about the company's salary range for the position. It shows you're interested in a fair and transparent negotiation.
Okay, all of this is super helpful. I'm feeling much more prepared to tackle those tough interview questions. But what about some overall tips to really nail the interview? Practice, practice, practice. The more you rehearse your answers, the more confident you'll feel. RoleCatcher's AI can be a huge help here. Its video practice feature lets you record yourself answering questions and get personalized feedback on everything from your delivery to your word choice.
It's like having a personal interview coach right in my pocket. I can even tailor the practice sessions to the specific company and job description, which is amazing.
Another key tip, research the company thoroughly. Go beyond just browsing their website. Check out their social media, read recent news articles, anything that gives you insight into their culture, values, and goals.
I've heard that tailoring your answers to the company's mission and values can make a big difference. It shows you've done your homework and are genuinely interested in the company.
Exactly. And don't forget the basics. Arrive on time or even a few minutes early. Dress professionally, be polite and respectful, and make eye contact with the interviewer.
Those might seem like small details, but they really do add up. First impressions are everything.
And here's one final tip that can really set you apart. Come prepared with thoughtful questions to ask the interviewer. It shows you're engaged, curious, and genuinely interested in the opportunity.
I like that. It turns the interview into more of a conversation. And I can always use RoleCatcher's AI to help me brainstorm some insightful questions based on the job description and the company's profile.
Exactly. And remember, this is your chance to learn more about the company and determine if it's the right fit for you.
This has been an incredible deep dive. I feel like I've gained so much valuable knowledge and practical tips. I'm actually excited to go into that interview now.
That's fantastic to hear. And remember, RoleCatcher is your partner every step of the way. It's an incredible resource for researching careers, preparing for interviews, and even negotiating salary.
So if there's one key takeaway from today's deep dive, it's this. Preparation is key. With the right tools and resources, you can approach any interview with confidence.
And remember, the aquaculture industry is constantly evolving, so stay curious, stay engaged, and never stop learning. Who knows? Maybe someday you'll be the expert sharing your insights on the deep dive.
That's a great goal to strive for. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and best of luck in your job search.